here with my comrades, and I'm going to introduce up next Reverend Kiana Jones.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Kiana Jones. I'm co-pastor at Park Avenue Baptist Church here in the city of Atlanta. And I stand with my comrades, with these students, with faith leaders, and the Atlanta Multifaith Coalition for Palestine in calling for not only Emory University, but all universities here in the state of Georgia to disclose and divest from arming Israel. You heard Reverend Allen mention Cop City, and so many times you all will ask us, what does Israel have to do with Cop City? Well, we are calling for an end to the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, which brings the same Israeli occupation forces that are murdering Palestinian children right here to Georgia to train our police officers, and then they turn around and murder black children in the street. They murder unarmed citizens simply because they refuse to sign a parking ticket. We are calling for an end to the genocide, not only in Palestine, but here in Atlanta, because we realize this connection is one that cannot be denied. I was here on Thursday during the student-led and organized demonstration, and I am here to emphatically deny everything that President Fenves has put out to the media. First of all, the narrative of outside agitators is old and played out. Come along with something new. They said abolitionists, the original abolitionists, were outside agitators. They called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. an outside agitator while simultaneously hanging on every other word that he said. So which one is it? Was it outside agitators? And where was the disturbance that was being called? Because what I witnessed as I was a part of a press conference just like this one was students and faculty members being in community, giving political education to others who walked by, encouraging them to come and find out why we were out in the quad. And the next thing I saw was Georgia State troopers marching in defense of this property. When I say that they were marching in defense of this property, it's not that the property was being damaged. It was simply because they did not want to see people on campus denouncing the genocide in Palestine. What's happened right here at Emory University is happening all across the country. And what we see, Emory, is that you are a victim of your own success. You taught students to speak for themselves, to think for themselves, to stand for justice. But the moment that they do it, you're upset simply because it's against Israel. We need to call a spade right here and be very clear. Not only did President Fenves claim that it was outside agitators, but he told those officers to target black people because we saw a majority of black people being accosted by the police. When you look at all the outside agitators, I'm wondering where they were, because the majority of people arrested were Emory faculty and students. So I'm still looking for the outside agitators, because according to Emory's own policies, anyone invited here is a part of the Emory community. So you arrested community members because you didn't like what they were saying. Where else have we seen this? And where else have we seen people stand up against this? All across this country, students are setting the tone. And if we, as adults, and particularly as faith leaders, don't stand with these students, then shame on us. Shame on us for inviting these students to come into our churches, claiming that they are a safe space, and we leave them out here by themselves. Shame on us for trying to push religion down their throats so hard that we can't stand for justice. Shame on us. But I'm proud of these faith leaders who have come out today. It would have been great to have more on Thursday. Because when I tell you that if we ever needed the Lord before, we needed him then. If we ever needed these students to be covered in prayer before, we needed it then. But we need it going forward. We need you faith leaders, no matter where you are in this country. Get on your knees and pray. If your feet can bring you to Atlanta to stand with these students, then do so. But if not, there's a lot that you can do right where you are. The first thing we need you to do is tell the truth. Stop standing up for genocide simply because your favorite congressperson won't speak out. Stop being complicit in the targeting of pro-Palestinian speech. Stop allowing our students to be targeted by these universities in the Anti-Defamation League and placed on terrorist watch lists. Because that, we know, is something that is not right. Today, you not only see us as faith leaders standing, but you see some of the students who were here. And we need you to listen, and we need you to tell the truth. Don't cut out the clips when I'm calling Fimbiz a liar, because he is. Don't cut out the clips when I'm saying that this was student-led and organized, because it was. Don't be a part of the perpetuation of this outside agitator narrative. Don't be a part of saying that police brutality here on Thursday was justified, because it was not. Someone was tased repeatedly while being handcuffed, while already handcuffed. Students were shot with rubber bullets, pepper balls aimed into the crowds. Don't let the Georgia State Patrol and Emory University cover up the truth anymore, because no matter how much they do, we'll continue to uncover it.
Hi, my name is Muslim Shora. I'm a graduating senior from Spelman College in International Studies, and speak up. Okay, hi, my name is Muslim Shora. I'm a graduating senior at Spelman College in International Studies. I and 3 other AUC students were on the ground at Emory Thursday morning. First, I want to dispel the narrative that Emory has been pushing about outside agitators. Emory does not exist in a vacuum. Emory exists in the context of our experience. Emory exists in Atlanta. What they do affects the community. Their investments in Cop City will affect the community. Their investments in apartheid Israel will affect the community. And we as community members were invited by Emory students to participate in an action to address their institution's ties to both of the aforementioned, as well as giving us a platform to call out our institutions and our organizations' ties to apartheid Israel and Cop City. The Emory administration has been pushing the narrative of outsiders so that they can take extreme action against us, so that they can justify the brutalization of students, so they can justify calling 200 Georgia State troopers on unarmed community members and students. Specifically, I would like to address my institution, Spelman College and the AUC, Clark Atlanta University, Morris Brown, Morehouse College, and Spelman College. First, I'd like to say that the AUC needs to condemn the actions of Emory University and GSP and APD. Your students were harmed. You have a responsibility to speak out, especially President Helene Gale of Spelman College, who behind closed doors claims to be pro-Palestine. These institutions like to position themselves alongside their revolutionary history, a history of Alice Walker, MLK, SNCC, and the Atlanta student movement, yet condemn students for taking revolutionary actions. We are the new Atlanta student movement. The civil rights movement never ended, and this is a continuation of that. Our universities must have full disclosure of financials. We need financial transparency. We need divestment from Cop City. In a city where 90% of arrests are black people. In a city where 89% of death at police hands are black people. Black institutions cannot be complicit. Black institutions cannot be providing funding or receiving funding from a system that is specifically designed to kill and oppress black people. A lot of people ask us why we were there. Why were we on the ground at Emory? Because we care about the community. Because Spelman College teaches me that you have to make a choice to change the world. And I decided to go there and do that. I decided to use our voice, to use our privilege as students to be able to go speak on issues that will directly affect us. We are black students. Cop City will affect us, will affect the residents of the West End the most. So I'm calling on our institutions, condemn Emory, condemn Fendez. I would like to see our boards off of any organization that is affiliated with Cop City or apartheid Israel. Have some decency. That is all I am asking you for. Care about your students. Care about the community. Care about the victims of genocide in Palestine. Do not let Biden speak at commencement until he has called for a permanent ceasefire. It's disgraceful that HBCUs are standing alongside systems that replicate the very reason why we needed HBCUs in the first time. Apartheid. Apartheid. I'm sorry, I'm feeling like, ugh. Apartheid, segregation, oppression, violence, systemic poverty. These are the reasons why we needed HBCUs. These are the reasons HBCUs were necessary. And now our institutions are backing the same type of oppression in Palestine. We, a people, are all united under our collective oppression. There is no difference between what is happening here in the United States and what's happening in Palestine. If they can take extreme action there, if our government can support the brutalization and the genocide of people there, they can do the same here. If the AUC does not condemn Emory and GSP, then they are in support of them. They are in support of the brutalization of black bodies, the targeting of black students. I watched as my friends who were unarmed and not resisting be pinned to the ground, handcuffed, and then tased. I and my friends were tear gassed. We were cornered and kettled by 200 Georgia State police officers for taking peaceful action. If that's how they react to peaceful action, I ask, what will you do when what comes next? What will you do when you know what? I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there because. Sorry.
Good morning. My name is Daniela Hobbs, and I am an ethics PhD student at Emory University. I am also currently a member of Occupy Candler, a coalition of graduate students from Candler School of Theology and the Graduate Division of Religion who are standing together with our comrades across campus and across the world. Before I discuss our demands, I need you to know some of what we have borne witness to since last Thursday. We have seen in video and firsthand our siblings from Candler School of Theology and other programs across campus be brutalized and wrongly arrested by the multiple police agencies that our university deployed on peaceful protesters. We sat in chapel on Thursday while being told that we should go home and stay calm, the implication being that calm and avoidance of protest in this moment is the way of Christ. After standing in the quad protesting the unjust arrest of our friends and colleagues, we originally tried to occupy Cannon Chapel, only to realize that all of the doors had been locked. Can we, as religious students, leaders, and educators, proclaim any good news while literally locking people out of our churches and chapels? We chose to occupy because we could not continue with business as usual. It is final season, and we cannot continue to write papers or be expected to produce knowledge in our fields with any type of integrity while these injustices rage unbridled across the world and across our campuses. Friday night, we occupied Candler knowing full well we were risking arrest, but also knowing we were standing in a long lineage of religious leaders and scholars who have unapologetically put their bodies on the line for justice. And I do here want to name our sincere gratitude for the faculty who, rather than having us forcibly removed, did all they could to ensure our safety. This included standing with us as increasingly militarized police forces staged their operation from within the building Thursday night. I want to be clear. They loaded their pepper spray and pepper bullets in a seminary.
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
While we pulled our waters away from them and shouted them down in shame. I do not yet have words to describe what it felt like to stand at that window chanting while they began shooting pepper spray and pepper bullets at our fellow students. It was like looking out of a fishbowl at a world of militarized terror. Friday morning, after making it through the night without arrest, a group of us gathered in a classroom to project the bond hearing of our friends and colleagues, our fellow students who were being charged with criminal trespassing on their own campus. While we sat watching them, President Greg Fenves sent an email lamenting the damage done to the grass on the quad. I have heard concerns that movements like divestment can cause academic institutions to crumble, and I must ask you all today if that is really the worst thing. Does an institution that cares more about its grass and concrete walls have anything of value to really teach us? There are people dying, children dying. There are people being buried in mass graves. Our siblings in Gaza do not even have universities from which to protest. So we must continue to do so while they cannot. We must show up for them, and we must continue to show up for one another. When we occupied Candler Theological School, our administration ensured we would not be forcibly removed as long as only Candler and GDR students were allowed in the building. We chose to open our doors to the community anyway, because we cannot call ourselves people of faith while turning away exhausted and traumatized people out fighting for the end of a genocide.
That's right.
We knew opening our doors meant making ourselves vulnerable to forcible removal by police, but we chose to do so anyway. We have no regrets because we were able to provide the only refuge on campus during a very scary time. Our physical occupation may have ended on Sunday, but we just see it as a moment turning into a movement. We now have carts to bring to actions with snacks, drinks, art supplies. We're calling it the Ark of the Occupation. The outpouring of support that we have received from community members both on campus and beyond has really restored my faith in humanity. These past few days have been traumatic, and yet they have also been so abundant, and that is why we must continue this fight. It is bleak now, but there will be a day when Palestine is free.
That's right.
In this light, we stand in solidarity with our comrades across campus and around the world, with those demanding a permanent ceasefire, with those demanding divestment from apparatuses of the Israeli occupational regime, and Cop City. In addition to these demands, we, as Occupy Candler, are also demanding the following: the full removal of outside police forces from campus, the resignation of Gregory Fenves in light of the repression on April 25th, care, reparations, and no disciplinary action for all arrested protesters, and, as liberationist religion scholars, we are also requesting a meeting with Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock.
Yes.
I want to be clear. As long as Emory prefers brutalizing students over divesting from genocide in Cop City, we will continue in our actions, and we will continue in this struggle. We will continue to put our bodies on the line in any way we are called, because it is what our faith and our scholarship demand of us. For those of you who are also in academic and religious institutions, is this not what your scholarship and faith call of you as well? As a descendant of sharecroppers and enslaved folks in this very state, people who also would have been considered criminal trespassers on this campus, this is what my ancestors demand of me. As a person from Black Baptists and Ashkenazi Jews, this is what my faith demands of me. My grandparents made their final resting place in Jerusalem. Their bodies were laid in the ground without a casket so they could return to the dust from which they came. I am here because it is my sincere hope that one day that dust will cover land that is no longer blood and terror soaked. That one day that dust may become a flower that a Palestinian child picks during their commemoration of their day of liberation. Because I believe that day will come. My faith and my ancestors demand this of me. They demand it of all of us. It may be scary now, but history will be on our side. I hope you will find the courage to join us. Join us by calling your senators and university administrators. Join us by disrupting business as usual. Join us by sharing meals with friends and strategizing towards our collective liberation. We must divest from violence and invest in a future where all of us are free. Ceasefire now and free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I'm Imam Nadim Ali from the Community Masjid of Atlanta and also with the Majlis Ashura Metro Atlanta Muslim Leadership Group. I stand before you in support of the student encampments that have emerged across the nation and throughout the world to protest the recent execution of the world in Gaza by the Netanyahu and Biden administrations. These students have taken a courageous stance against the unjust and disproportionate use of force that has resulted in the death of thousands of innocent civilians, including women and children. To unleash the police on peaceful protesters is unconscionable. It is important for us to allow the students and faculty to exercise their freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. These two American values are not always popular, but this is a right that people have fought and died for. In the words of Sheikh Suleiman al-Hadi of the Last Poets, that the future and truth belongs to the youth. We must encourage, again, the various universities, not only in Georgia, but around the country, to divest from companies that are supporting the military apparatus of the Netanyahu regime and also the Cop City. I would also encourage the state of Georgia to rescind the law that contractors and employees of the state of Georgia have to commit to not engage in BDS activities against the Israeli government before they can do business or work for the state of Georgia. It is a mistake for President Biden to speak at the alma mater of one of the greatest proponents of peace, Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King was a man who believed in nonviolent resistance and stood up for the rights of the oppressed. The execution of the war in Gaza and the ongoing occupation of Palestinian lands stands in stark contrast to Dr. King's teachings and values. I implore President Biden not to come to speak at Morehouse unless, again, he's coming to announce a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The protests that have emerged are not anti-Semitic, as some has falsely claimed. This disinformational red herring has been basically, they say that the protests, they are protesting anti-genocide, anti-occupation, anti-militarism, and anti-IDF, and not anti-Judaism. We stand with the Palestinian people in their struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. And as a Muslim, I'm reminded of the words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who said, whenever you see an injustice, let him change it with his hands. If he is unable to do so, then let him speak out against it with his tongue. And if he is not able to do so, hate it within the heart. These students have taken this message to the heart, and they're using their voices to speak out against the injustices that they see. The Quran also teaches us that whoever kills a soul, unless it's for corruption done in the land, it is as if they have slain all of humanity. And whoever saves one, it's as if they have saved all of humanity. The killing of innocent civilians in Gaza, including women and children, cannot be justified. It's this proportional use of military force. The ongoing occupation of Palestinian lands and the denials of their basic human rights are violations of international law, and they're staying on the conscience of the world. As American citizens, we must hold our governments accountable for its actions and demand that it takes a stand for justice and peace. We stand in solidarity with the student encampments and their demand for the end to the occupation and the blockade of Gaza. We call on the Biden administration to take a stronger stance against the Netanyahu government, whose actions, are just against humanity, and work towards a lasting peace in the region, because for centuries, Muslims, Jews, and Christians have existed in peace in that area. And so it's only in this last century that we see, a lot of the confusion that's been going on. And so we have to work towards a lasting peace. The war in Gaza exemplifies the three major evils that Dr. King spoke of in 1967. The evil of racism, the evil of poverty, and the evil of militarism. These evils, again, continue to exist just as they did in 1967, a year before he was killed. In closing, Dr. King also said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Let us stand together and demand justice for the Palestinian people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you and the mercy of the Creator and his blessings.
I am Sarah Webb Phillips, a retired United Methodist pastor, but that does not mean the work ended in my life for social justice in this world. I am a proud alum of Candler School of Theology, and I want to reiterate that the Dean of Candler has stood with our students, was on campus during most of these protests, helped bring some reason and rationale with the Emory administration, and we can be very proud of that as well. And I am delighted, as a child of the protest of the Vietnam War and nuclear war, I am glad this next generation has taken up the mantle. I am on the National Steering Committee of the Organization of United Methodist Kairos Response. In 2009, Palestinian Christians, Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant came together and wrote a letter to the world churches saying, you must not know what is happening here because otherwise you would be standing among us now. And so we heard that call, and many denominations have formed groups to work for peace in Palestine. As a part of that, our United Methodist International General Conference is meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina, where violence again was in the news last night. But our group had several resolutions before them that have now made the consent calendar. We are standing against Israeli detention of children, against child incarceration, we are standing for the right to protest peacefully. We are for the UN resolutions that work for resolution. We are working for excluding government debt in those countries where there is prolonged occupation, Israel, Turkey, and Morocco. Our clergy pension funds are the largest church investment in the world. And in 2015, we were able to get our West Path clergy pension to divest from one company in Israel. And now we are demanding divestment from all connection to Israeli bonds and anything that would contribute toward the military. We are calling upon other denominations and Christian bodies and religious organizations to do the same, to do the work of BDS, especially divestment as soon as possible, so that there may be a ceasefire in Palestine and peace in that region.
My name is Fahid Abu Akil. I am a retired Presbyterian minister, and the gentleman on my right is Father Makhlouf, George Makhlouf, who is an Antiochian Orthodox priest, retired from St. Elias, and I am a retired Presbyterian minister. We are standing before you because both of us are children of the first Nakba. That means in 1948-49, the new state of Israel destroyed 530 villages and towns and exiled by force between 750,000 people to 1 million Palestinians toward Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, Jordan, and Egypt, and of course Gaza. So anytime you hear the word Gaza, remember there are 2,300,000. 75% of them are refugees from 63 villages around Gaza. So the bankrupt American policy and media, when they focus on October the 7th, that's when everything started, is a bankrupt philosophy. I want to say that we are from the Atlanta Multifaith Coalition. There are three things that unite us. Number one, we are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and other faiths. Three things unite us, that we are multi-faith. The second, we want to affirm our humanity. The third, we want to affirm that Palestinians are human beings and we need to struggle for their justice and liberation. So our focus was justice and peacemaking. I came to this city 1970. So I've been in this place for close to 54 years. That means I love this place. And I served Emory University and 30 colleges and universities through the ministry I did called AMI, Atlanta Ministry with International Students, for one purpose. The future leaders of the world who are studying here, I want them to know us as American on a friendship basis. So I have a lot of investment in our colleges and universities. That means coming to Columbia Seminary and a graduate from Columbia Seminary, I want to challenge Columbia Seminary, Candler School of Theology, ITC, and Mercer Theology Seminary and say, look, when we study Hebrew, when we study Greek, and you want us to do an exegesis and preach, you always tell us we want to be prophetic. And that means we need to challenge the status quo. That means these students are taking seriously Jesus Christ, what he said in the city of Nazareth before he started his ministry. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. For what? To liberate people, to feed people, to visit the prisoner and welcome the strangers. Yeah. These students are fulfilling that kind of a call. Yeah. The second thing, the power of American education is helping the students to make their own decision, to look for their own future and work for justice and peace. So I want to say to all the presidents and all the administration, the students are really acting on what you teach them.
That's right.
You cannot say stop when they see injustice. We are old-timers, can go to sleep and we don't know our right from our left.